Pittsburgh Steelers fans, welcome back to another episode of The Homer and the Hater. I'm Jeff Hartman, behind the SteelCurtain.com's editor. The Homer, the guy that was talking over me at the beginning of the show, that's the Hater. That's Lance Williams. Lance, what's going on? I feel like we've been doing this all weekend, but here we are again. Another show. 2020 NFL Draft is a wrap. What's going on? How you doing?
You were right, Jeff, man. This feels like Groundhog Day. Like punch the clock, it's Groundhog Day. We're doing the same thing again at the same time, over and over.
I'm tired.
Yeah, me too, man. But things have changed. It is actually Sunday. And the reason why I wanted to wear different outfits and get-ups every time we did the shows, because we're going to be doing so many shows, I wanted to make sure you guys didn't think it was actually the same show. Hence,
right.
I have my new lid. This is the draft cap from last year, 2019.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, with the city of Pittsburgh crest in the background. So, and my Woodson jersey on, and my Woodson with my 60 season patch right there. Yes, got to keep it fresh.
There you go. I've got a Super Bowl 40 conference championship t-shirt, long sleeve t-shirt. There you go. I watched that game last night. I have ESPN Plus, and you can go back and watch a lot of the greatest games, and Super Bowl 40 was one of them. What an awful game that was. That was ugly. That was ugly. And a quick aside, no wonder Ben Roethlisberger was so bad in that game. Cowher was just pounding him, like verbally, like, come on, you got. He was probably a wreck mentally, a mental wreck, a giant ball of nerves. But that's for another time.
Of course, you apologize for Ben, but I have to call technical foul on you, Jeff.
Why?
To start the show. We're not supposed to wear conference championship anything.
I didn't buy it.
Okay.
I didn't buy it. It was purchased for me. I swear to you, I haven't bought anything Steelers related in over a decade. And you know how many shirts I have.
Yes, you have a ton. You have absolutely a ton of shirts. But yes, that's the rule. And I'm putting that out there, Steeler Nation. You cannot wear, in Jeff's case, it was gifted, so he feels obligated to wear it. But if you receive a conference championship shirt, a division shirt, and we run this is Pittsburgh. Those things aren't worn. The expectations are higher. Now, if you're a Jags fan, you can wear a 2017 whatever conference, AFC South, because they're not good. They're typically bad. So the bar is high here in Pittsburgh.
Absolutely. And this upcoming draft class is hopefully going to be maybe a group of guys that in some way, shape, or form gives the team an edge that maybe they can get back to that promised land, and maybe they can get that seventh ring that Steeler fans have wanted now, especially now that the Patriots have 6 as well. So we'll see. But let's read off, just as a recap, the 6 draft picks that they had. And then also they signed 10 undrafted free agents yesterday. Now, these can be fluid. For instance, they don't have access to these players as of now with the current situation in the global pandemic. If, let's say, a player's hurt, they can cut them and bring someone else in. It's very fluid, but still their offseason roster should basically be set for now. Let's go through the 2020 NFL draft just as a recap. No first-round pick. Well, Minkah Fitzpatrick, he's pretty good. Second-round pick, we had Chase Claypool, Notre Dame wide receiver. Third-round pick, Alex Highsmith, outside linebacker from Charlotte. The first of 2 fourth-round draft picks, Anthony McFarland, running back from Maryland. The second fourth-round pick, Kevin Dotson, offensive guard, Louisiana Lafayette. No fifth-round pick. Sixth-round selection was Antoine Brooks, a linebacker/safety out of Maryland. And their seventh-round final pick, Carlos Davis, defensive tackle or nose tackle out of Nebraska. Now, let's go to the undrafted free agents. 10 players were signed, and they are as follows. Auburn fullback Spencer Nye. Tulane guard Christian Montano. Miami, Florida defensive back Trajan Bandy. Florida Atlantic defensive back James Pierre. Baylor linebacker James Lockhart. Mississippi State linebacker Leo Lewis. Southern California linebacker John Houston. Mississippi defensive end Josiah Coatney. Kentucky defensive end Calvin Taylor. And the one that I'm most excited about, South Alabama / Mississippi State punter Corliss Waitman. Yes, they have a punter to compete with Jordan Berry. I'm excited about that. Get that Australian guy out of here. That's all I got to say. But Lance, quick question for you before we go into our rundown. Now that the dust is settled and, now's when everyone's throwing out their grades and all that stuff, what were your thoughts on just the overall draft class? It's a lot of work that we put in this past weekend, both written in here on our audio platform. But now that you kind of had time to sit and think about it, what are your thoughts?
As much as Colbert and Tomlin didn't want to admit it in their comments post-draft, I think a lot of this had to do with familiarity with certain players. Given that they had Canada from Maryland is now a coach, and Dino Tomlin is down at Maryland, that I think their familiarity with certain players probably impacted their draft. But like any draft, this is just the first part of it. The rest of it is player development and coaching these guys up and seeing how quickly these guys can acclimate to professional football and how quickly they can get these guys on the field so they can have an impact.
And that's a great segue into our headline. And this all stemmed from the idea that I have. I'm going to give credit where credit's due, I guess, if you want to give him credit. But Mark Caballi of The Athletic, he sent out a tweet. It must have been late last night, early this morning, essentially saying, he doesn't think that this NFL draft class, these 6 players, makes the 2020 roster any better. I don't think that's a blanket, he hates the group. I think it's more along the lines of he doesn't see anyone that's going to impact the roster this season. My question for you, Lance, is he right or is he wrong? What are your thoughts?
I think he's wrong. I mean, I think when you look particularly, I think there are certain players, if you look at the draft class, and I'm not going to talk about any of the undrafted guys, I think there are guys in the class that will not impact the roster. But before I give my thoughts on that, as a dad of 5, Jeff, and a guy with an immense food bill, can you imagine feeding Carlos Davis and his twin brother? And the dad is just as big. Can you imagine feeding twin 300-pounders and probably a 300-pound dad?
I mean, I know for me, with all of our kids, there are times where I say to my wife, is this all they do is eat? Do they do anything else? I mean, they're eating inside a house and home. I can only imagine 3 gentlemen that large that are just, well, and let's be honest, when you play that position in football, you have to keep size. It's not like they're eating to lose weight. They're eating to gain and to maintain. And so I'll never forget in college, I went to a Division II school, but still I was friends with a couple football players. One was a defensive lineman starter for the team. And my gosh, he ate a ton of food. And he goes, man, I'm burning so many calories. They were up early in the morning running, conditioning. Then they had a lifting session later. It's got to be absorbent amount of money to keep them fed and satiated. We'll put it that way.
Well, let's just start with him. And looking at the class, I think Chase Claypool, along with Highsmith, McFarland, and Davis, I believe have an opportunity to make an impact on the roster. I think Davis, along with Wormley, might be able to get Dan McCullers bumped off the roster if they also find the pictures that Dan McCullers has of Kevin Colbert and Mike Tomlin. But I think when you add Claypool, I think Highsmith will play as a backup situational pass rusher. He'll back up TJ and he'll back up Bud Dupree. And I think Anthony McFarland, with the change, with that change of a dimension that he adds to the running back room, I think those guys have an opportunity to impact the roster. I think the nuance is, how much does it make the Steelers better? It could be in a small increment or it could be in a huge way. And that's the beauty about this next process, is seeing what these players become. But I think the draft class, particularly Claypool, Highsmith, and McFarland, can make an impact on this roster.
Well, and what he said really caught me by surprise, because anyone that follows Caballi's writing or him on Twitter, he's typically not this type of guy. That this isn't That was an Ed Bouchette comment in my opinion. And hey, they're both The Athletic. Maybe that's why he said it, because maybe Bouchette's grumpy old man nature is rubbing off on him. I don't know. But when I read that, I was like, you know what? Depth can still impact the roster. Let give you a perfect example. You mentioned Highsmith. Now, there's one thing that everything that I've read about this kid since he was drafted 2 days ago is that he needs to get better in run support. He can rush the passer. His first step is really good. And people are thinking that he could be a good depth piece at outside linebacker. Okay. Is he better than Anthony Chickolo? What do you think, Lance?
Absolutely.
That is an improvement because TJ Watt and Bud Dupree cannot play the entire game. We know this. That's fact. So if he can come in and provide even just a little bit of a pass rush, then he's better. And that makes their roster better. So I look at it from multiple. Did they get a guy that's going to come in and start from day one? Probably no. But then again, they didn't have a first-round draft pick. So again, it comes down to expectations. I think that Claypool is going to be a significant contributor to this team. I think that, like you said, Highsmith, I just mentioned him. McFarland is a change of pace back. There are some people, I don't know, because how would I know? I'm not keen on offensive line, but there are some people that think that Dotson is going to compete for that starting guard spot that Ramon Foster vacated when he was let go and eventually retired. I don't know if he's that good because I've heard he struggles in pass protection, but he seems to be a really good pickup as well. So I don't know. I definitely don't agree with Cavalli on that blanket statement that the 2020 roster isn't better from this draft class, especially when you get a wide receiver that is as big, fast, and tall, which, by the way, I'm super pumped that you sent me the measurables between Martavis Bryant and Claypool. Because do you still have that email by chance? I think Lance might be frozen. We'll get him back up here. I'll find the email here in a second. So Lance, yesterday, he sent me an email with basically the measurables. We're talking height, we're talking weight, we're talking 40 time, we're talking vertical. Lance, you're back. Do you have that? Do you have that information? The Claypool, Martavis Bryant measurables comp?
I do not. I can look for it though.
I can have it. Go ahead and talk about the perception, because I think a lot of people think that Claypool's not that fast and that he's not the same burner that Martavis Bryant is. Because honestly, here I've got it right here. Their measurables are really similar. So listen to this.
Better from my recollection. They were better.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
Let me read it. Martavis Bryant is 6'3", 3/4 of an inch tall. Chase Claypool is 6'4", about the same. Martavis Bryant weighed 211 pounds. Claypool weighs 238. I think Claypool will probably lose weight, personally. Martavis Bryant's 40 time, 4.42. Chase Claypool's 40 time, 4.42. Look at how much bigger Claypool is than Bryant. That's over 20 pounds heavier and still runs a 4.42 40. Okay, let's keep that in mind.
Ridiculous. That's sick.
It is. Martavis Bryant had a 39-inch vertical jump. Chase Claypool with a 40.5-inch vertical jump. People say it's just an inch and a half. That's significant. Broad jump, Martavis Bryant 124. Chase Claypool 126. Look at that.
Now let me ask you: is he longer? His wingspan is his wing. Did they have wingspan on there?
Well, you sent it to me and you didn't include that.
Okay, well,
I read your email.
Well, think about it this way: when you said when you were talking about the difference in vertical jump, if there's a difference in vertical jump and wingspan, you combine the two, and that's even a bigger difference. So he's jumping higher with the higher wingspan. That means his length, he's a lot longer when you add those two measurables. See, here's the thing to Kabali's point that's interesting, and I like Kaboom. But sometimes impact may not always be measured in statistics, especially in offensive football. When you can add pieces to an offense that forces a defense to react in certain predictable ways, then you can really take advantage of a defense. So his addition may help Juju and or Deontay Johnson do particular things that they couldn't if they didn't have that type of athlete on the field. You force a defense to do certain things, you can take advantage of it. And adding offensive pieces, athletes like this can only help. And it is up to the coaches. And that's the part of this that I think gets lost post-draft. These guys are just unshaped, unmolded clay. It is up to the coaching staff to get these guys ready and put them into positions where they can most succeed. And looking at the Steelers and their work with wide receivers, man, I think the only wide receiver they couldn't get to produce, one of the few was the Mr. Electronic Football man, Ryan Switzer, but they didn't draft him initially. Sammy Coates wasn't that good, but they don't miss too much when it comes to wide receiver. If Claypool becomes the guy that can play to those physical measurables, they will be a lot better.
The one thing that the Steelers have always struggled with when they draft a receiver who has questionable hands, Sammy Coates was that guy. Sammy Coates was he has the speed, he has the size, but he has some of the drops. And you can't, in my opinion, you could have the greatest coach in the world. You have to just have that innate ability to track and then to catch the ball. Coates did not have that, and that was a swing and a miss, period. You don't hear that about Chase Claypool. I do suggest everyone go out on Twitter, find Bruce Gradkowski's Twitter feed. He did a breakdown of Claypool. It was only about 2 or 3 minutes long, and how he's going to be a tremendous weapon for Roethlisberger, but especially in the red zone. And he showed several times in Notre Dame's offense, and they do run a pro-style offense with Brian Kelly at Notre Dame, that he was split out wide. It could have been on either side of the field, didn't matter. He's so big, and that he would right when the play would start, it would just take one fake to the we'll call it the flag route, and the cornerback would immediately jump because they thought they were going to get lob it up, fade, and he would just put his foot in the ground and then take on the inside slant, and it was wide open. And he's so big, he's bigger than any defensive back he's going to go up against. You box him out. He's a basketball player, very good basketball player, actually. And it's a reception. They're going to be able to scheme this kid open. I truly believe that. And like you said, when he draws attention, whether it's Claypool could be a deep threat like Bryant was, Juju's only going to be that much more open. And we know when Juju is not the number one focus for a defense, what does he do? He can light you up, because he did it when Antonio Brown was on the team. So I'm excited for Claypool. I think he can make a really big impact for this team. And if it means James Washington has to sit more, so be it. That's just my take.
Well, let me ask you one of the questions that I had in the rundown. There's both of them. One, what rookie do you think will play the most snaps? And what rookie do you think will have the biggest impact?
Who will play the most snaps?
Yes, and what rookie will have the most impact?
I'll go with it. To me, it's a toss-up between Claypool and McFarland for snaps, because I think the offensive side of the ball, there's going to be more opportunities, whether it's McFarland spelling James Conner, if James Conner gets hurt. I think Claypool's going to earn his spot on the roster and get some snaps. And what was the second question?
And what rookie will have the biggest impact this year?
I think it's Claypool, just for the reasons that I just mentioned. Do you disagree with any of those?
I think it's going to be, in terms of snaps, I think it'll be between Claypool and McFarland. I don't disagree. In terms of impact, I think McFarland may have the biggest impact, because I think they're going to have to lean on the running game a little bit more. And I think that McFarland's going to be this sneaky third down back guy. I think he's going to slot in there nicely. And I think he's going to have a positive impact in special teams as well.
Yeah. Ryan Keller, and I'll put this on the screen for you. He said Brian's wingspan was 79 inches, Claypool's 80. So to me, it's just about how the reception for this too. They were talking, everyone you hear, they're like, oh, should Claypool be a tight end? Well, no one was suggesting it. Brian should be a tight end, and there's only about 20 pounds difference, which is 20 pounds. I understand that. And somebody in the live chat, I think, here we go, Darwin Nolan said Claypool said that he'll play at about 230. So he'll lose about 10 pounds. And I think that's where he should be if he wants to be a wide receiver. Now, Michael Clark, He puts $4.99 in the tip jar, and he said, should we also look at Devin Bush as a third-round pick this year? That's all we really gave up, right? Well, the Steelers I'm trying to think the parameters of that trade with Denver. They ended up giving up more than just a third round. I think it was they swapped first rounders last year. They moved up 10 and they gave up the third round this year. But I'm not into the whole should we view this guy as that and the other. See here. Ron McCringleberry gives us $2 in the tip jar. He said Claypool's 5 touchdowns in 2020. Over or under? There you go, Lance. There's over under for you. Claypool touchdowns.
I'm gonna go over. I'm gonna go over with 6 touchdowns.
That's a good number. 5, by the way. They're Ron. 5. I think. You said 6?
I'm gonna go 6.
I'm gonna go over. I'm gonna go 7.
Nice. I think 7 would be a lot of production. 7 would be a lot of production. I mean, it's and think about it also, listeners. Ben does well with very big wide receivers that have the body type of Plaxico Burress and Martavis Bryant. Ben's going to want to throw the deep ball, and he's going to want to throw the 9 route to Claypool and give him an opportunity to combat catch it, going vertically up the field. One thing I need to see from Claypool, I haven't watched him a ton, and you might be able to tell me, Jeff, what's his change of direction like? Is he more straight line? Does he have some lateral agility? I mean, because that's a big guy.
He is a big guy, and he definitely, from everything you read, from everything you watch, you can see that off the line, he doesn't have the fastest get off in terms of those first 10 yards. Change of direction is a little bit sluggish. So that doesn't mean I think a lot of people, and I would say the same thing, when you watch him, let's say he takes an inside slant, he's using his big body to catch the ball. So he's not so much a yak guy. That's Deontay Johnson. He's your yak guy. He's that guy that's going to get the ball in his hands. He's going to make a couple people miss. He's going to get an extra 10 off a pass of just 3 yards. Claypool, maybe not so much, not at this point in his career. Claypool does have good hands. He's a huge target. I think he's something that no one's talking about. I wrote this article for the website. He's also a remarkable blocker. He loves to block. There's a video that's on BehindTheSteelCurtain.com. You have to scroll down a little bit. He's trucking dudes in the secondary on run plays. And he loves it. Put him on as an inline tight end. He'll do the job for you. I guarantee he could block a linebacker. He could definitely get a safety and a defensive back. He's pancaking dudes out there, Lance. I don't know if you got to look it up. Kid loves the block.
Well, you know what blocking is to a wide receiver. It's like to that blind date that you had and somebody says she had a nice personality. You don't
tell that to Hines Ward.
You don't get paid to block.
I mean, seriously. No, but when you find one that's willing to do it, that's a special guy, because not every receiver is willing to get their nose dirty and to actually block. And I'm not talking about just, Antonio Brown stand in their way block. I'm talking about actually getting their nose dirty. He's that guy. He'll do it. I will
say this about blocking as a wide receiver in Pittsburgh. You'll get your own catch-up pretty soon. If you're blocking, you're a wide receiver. You'll be able to go to Kroger or Giant Eagle and be able to get Claypool mustard. If you continue to block and pancake people as a wide receiver, they'll like you. But I like the compliment now that they have at the wide receiver. You have that big prototypical X to mix in that room with Juju, Washington, and Deontay Johnson. You got versatile pieces there. Now it's just going to be up to the coaches to see how the coaches can best utilize these guys. Now, we talked before we did the show, and the Joe Green Award is for the best rookie, the Steelers' best rookie, Steelers Rookie of the Year award. Look into your crystal ball. At this time next year in 2021, who's the Joe Green Award winner for the Steelers?
Based on what we've talked about and the opportunities that they're going to get, it's going to be Claypool, because I think he's just going to see the field more. This could definitely be, there's only 6 players. So let's say someone like Kevin Dotson actually wins a starting job. Maybe he gets it. If he plays a ton of snaps, if he proves that he's worthy, I'm not sure, but I'll go with Claypool. Who you got?
I'm gonna go with McFarland because speed kills, baby. People like speed. Let him bust a couple of runs, a couple of big ones. Even if it's not a ton of them, all he needs is like 3 or 4. He just bust a few. I think people like speed. Fans like speed. Speed just, especially when you run like him. And actually, the funny thing is given Claypool's size and McFarland's size, their 40 times are comparable. They're both 4.4 guys. I think McFarland's a 4.4 guy. Claypool's like what you say, 4.48 guy. So, I mean, their 40 times are comparable and their body sizes are drastically different, which just goes to further illuminate just how good an athlete Claypool is. But I'm going to go with McFarland. When you watch him and you watch his highlights, it's just absolutely ridiculous. What he did to Ohio State, he could have been locked up for an assault because he assaulted Ohio State.
Did you watch his highlights?
Oh my goodness, he was killing Ohio State. I mean, he got them for like 310. I think Ohio State, at Ohio State in the horseshoe, he got him for 310. And he was the best player on the field against Ohio State, a team that gets 4 and 5 guys, 10 guys drafted every single season.
No, you're right. And that was in 2018. And that's why I kind of said that the Steelers could have maybe gotten a diamond in the rough. If you combine his 2018 was really good. 2019 was injury plagued. That could have hurt his draft stock. And then we read, if you listen to our shows after the pick, he was ripped on a bunch about his attitude and things of that nature. So if the Steelers can rectify those things, meaning he's healthy and meaning that they can kind of get his mind right and where he needs to be, the Steelers could have a good change of pace. Let me ask you this before we go to the defensive side. In your opinion, what are the Steelers missing on offense right now? Look at the roster. Look at the draft picks. What do you think? And I'm talking about starters. Don't say a backup quarterback.
Right.
Okay. What are they missing right now?
A healthy James Conner. I think if Conner is healthy, I think they have everything that they need on offense. But I really think they have to have Conner healthy to add some balance to that offense. And particularly with Ben coming back off of injury, I don't think you want to put it in Ben's hands so quickly. I think you want to let Ben feel comfortable with him not feeling like he has to win it. So I think they need a healthy James Conner. The other thing I think they need is a reemergence of Alejandro Villanueva. I don't think Villanueva played really good football last year. I think Villanueva will have to play to the way he played in 2019. Those are the two things. I think improvement from Villanueva and a healthy James Conner, I think, are what the offense needs.
Yeah, I mean, running back might be the only place you go, but if James Conner's healthy, and you said it before, he's very capable. The biggest knock on him is his vision. His vision is one knock, and health is the biggest knock on him at all time.
Yeah.
So if he can actually step up his game in that regard, I think this offense is pretty complete. I'm not saying it's elite. I'm not saying it's legit. I'm saying it's complete. I don't see a glaring hole there that you're like, man, they need X, Y, or Z, not the wide receiver positions, but those 3 things or that one player that they're missing. I don't think that this offense has that as of right now, and at least on paper, because you have Eric Ebron. He has injury issues. He has been banged up in his career. So can he stay healthy? Vance McDonald has injury issues and has been banged up in his career. Can he stay healthy? These are big question marks, but right now, if everyone's healthy, I think they're pretty complete.
Let me add one thing. The Pineiros 5 Pyro on Bloods. What's up, my Pyro? I think the other thing to add is they have to figure out this guard position, this left guard position. That's an unknown as well. Who's going to play that position, and how is that person who plays that position, how are they going to play, and how is it all going to work, mesh, and gel? I think that's an issue as well. Is it going to be Filer? Is it going to be Wisniewski? Is it going to be Dotson? Who's going to win that left guard position, and what is that going to do to this offensive line? My hope is it's not Filer kicking inside. I don't want Chooks as a right tackle. I don't want that. I think Filer as your right tackle, that position's already solidified. So the big question to me also on this offense is that left guard position, and what is this offensive line going to look like after that?
To me, it comes down to the question I asked on the Steelers preview before the draft, and it was, if we're talking about the offensive line, which area is more of a need to secure, the edge or the interior? Wherever you answer that question, or not us, but the coaching staff, is where you put Matt Filer, in my opinion.
Yes.
So if you feel that you need to secure the interior of the offensive line, that maybe Marquise Pouncey is not what he once was and he needs that anchor next to him, then you move Filer to guard, because you clearly said that that is more important. If you don't agree with that and you think tackle and the edge is more important, then you put Filer at tackle and you let Dotson or Wisniewski and anyone else that they might have picked up battle for that left guard spot. So they have options, in my opinion. So, we'll see. Now, Kerry Morris puts $5 in the tip jar and says, discuss the running back room if Connor doesn't get injured. Now, before I go to that, sorry about that. Before I go to that question, I want to say that when they drafted McFarland out of Maryland, it was asked over and over again, basically, do you think this will be running back by committee? And the running back coach would not commit to that, but it certainly looks like they might. I would be okay if they did. They never have done that under Mike Tomlin, so this would be new. It would be, you're blazing a new trail, so to speak. If James Conner doesn't get hurt, he's the guy. Who's the primary backup is the question.
I think it's going to be your friend and mine, Benny. Benny, no Jets. I think it'll be Snell football. I think Snell football and McFarland will be the primary backups. I think they're going to give the rookie McFarland a crack. I think they're going to really give him a shot.
Okay. So there's your top three then? You have Connor.
Yes.
Benny No Jets, Benny Snell Jr., and McFarland. You're probably going to keep four. Who is the other running back to make the team?
So that's Connor.
I know who
McFarland. It's going to be Samuels.
You have, that's who I think it would be as well, because you have Kareth White, who's a good story. Picked him up off of a practice squad last year from the Bears, but at the same time, talk about your P's, man. Pedigree. Did they draft him? No.
Yeah.
They drafted Samuels. They don't want to make a mistake. They don't want to admit that mistake. And then you have someone like Trey Edmonds. Great story. His brother's on the team. Sorry, bud. We'll see you later. I think those are your four running backs as well. So there you go to answer your question. Let's go to the defensive side and let's ask the same question that I asked you about the offense. What is the defense missing heading into 2020 after the draft, after free agency? What are your thoughts?
The defense is in a precarious position in my thoughts. And Jeffrey Benedict had some good posts in the live comments. My friend Jeff, they don't have quality depth at the inside linebacker position, and that safety, that hybrid inside linebacker, safety, Mark Barron role. They don't have it on the football team. And I don't know if you can put a rookie inside to do that. That coverage in there is so nuanced and so tough. They'll break a rookie's ankles. I mean, these little shifty guys inside will kill rookies inside. They need to either re-sign Barron or keep looking for it, because I don't think they have quality depth at inside linebacker or outside linebacker. I mean, you look at some of the outside linebackers, Ola. Those guys, 111. I read somewhere 111 snaps combined. They're thin at the linebacker spot, and they don't really have quality depth at the safety spot. They're still in search for that. And I would hate for a significant injury because of lack of depth to really cripple what is the strength of this team, which is their defense.
I have to wonder if the Steelers aren't going to kind of schematically try to, with maybe Antoine Brooks, a player that's in the box that is not known for coverage but more for run stopping. Maybe they utilize him in a dollar defense role. You get Vince Williams off the field, you put more speed on, yet he's still capable in terms of getting after the ball carrier, stopping the run, and yet you're not as heavy. Now, I know what we've said about the dollar defense before. That is that when you have that many defensive backs, you're really light. And if one offensive lineman gets to the second level, you're good luck, And when you play a team like the Ravens, well, you wouldn't run that very often because they run the ball so much. But they're going to have, to me, they're going to have to really look and try to find a way to make what they have, that make what they have work. I don't know, unless they bring back Barron on the cheap, I don't know if they're going to be able to find that in free agency. And so maybe it's someone, I know a lot of people in the live chat said Marcus Allen might get a chance to fill that role. Some people think that Brooks is going to get a chance to fill that role. I would have liked to have that role already solidified heading into the season and not have maybe this guy, let's throw it against the wall and see what sticks. I don't like that, but at the same time, I don't know. We'll see.
I think they should give Barron. I think they should kick the tires on Barron again. Bring Barron back in for the cheap. I mean, to be honest, I think that's a possibility. They have time. It's just going to be really difficult to get a rookie. And that's the difficulty right now with the global pandemic of COVID-19 and the uncertainty around when the coaches will actually be able to physically coach these guys and get guys on the football team. It's going to be harder for rookies to have impact. I think it'll be a little bit harder for running backs and wide receivers, inside coverage guys, safety guys, defensive guys. It's going to be tough. I think I would much rather they go on the open market and bring an inside linebacker in that at least, the issue of acclimating himself to the defense will be a little bit easier because that player is a veteran. And maybe you can find a player that is familiar with the verbiage and the schemes that you play, and you can bring that guy in. Why not bring Barron back on a cheaper deal, on a 1 year, to just give this unit the depth that it needs? Because right now, they're really thin at several positions, the outside linebacker position, inside linebacker, and safety position. They're really thin, and I would hate that ruins what I think could be the best defense in football.
I'm curious, Jeffrey Benedict, who is a contributor for the website BehindTheSteelCurtain.com, we keep bringing up his comments. I don't want people to think like we're playing favorites. He is a contributor, he breaks down a lot of film. He knows what he's talking about. He said if Edmonds, he's talking about Terrell, is coming up to play that Mark Barron role, then the Steelers need a second deep zone safety. They passed on those safeties and took a box safety. What if they try to use Cam Sutton as that deep safety? That's my question. If they could get him in the back end, he can cover. I don't think anyone has doubted that he can cover. But what does that have? What does that do to your dime? If you're going to move, if he is that dime backer that goes out there, that dime player, who's going to take his spot? That's my question. And I don't know if they have that answer.
Yeah, Sutton's a better coverage guy than Hilton. Hilton's a better blitzer than Sutton. So
you want to keep Hilton close to the line of scrimmage. I get that.
You want to keep Sutton. Yeah, you want to keep Hilton close to the line of scrimmage, and you want to utilize Sutton in coverage. It means that one of the rooks is going to have to get better fast. Justin Lane is going to have to become a guy that could potentially play. Or with the little bit of money they have left, they go shopping for a safety. Because I don't think Jordan Dangerfield is the answer. So, they have some questions. They have some questions, and I don't think the draft necessarily addressed those, particularly if the rookie that they selected out of Maryland is a box player in Antoine Brooks Jr. So there are some things they're going to have to figure out. I do hope that they go back and kick the tires on Barron and bring Barron back on a cheaper deal. I think that answers a lot of things and helps them out significantly.
Yeah. A cheaper deal is key. Now, Snowman puts $5 in the tip jar and says, do you think that Dan McCullers will finally get cut? We kind of talked about this after the 7th round pick of Carlos Davis out of Nebraska. What do you think, Lance?
Daniel McCullers has incriminating photos in the cloud. No, he will not be cut. He has incriminating photos in the cloud of the owner, the GM, and the coach. Dan McCullers is a 7-year veteran with 2.5 sacks 111 tackles, something
He
we
did not have
read the other day.
111 tackles, did he? It was like 41.
No, yeah, it might have been. It's just,
It's bad.
look, there's been ample reasons for Daniel McCullers to not be on the team every single year, and he's done nothing to change those things. So there's no way I would believe that he can do anything, uh, to not. Oh, actually, excuse me. He has 21 career tackles
Oh,
in 73 games.
he said 111. I was like, dang, he's a
Yeah, I was
machine.
way over. Yes, I'm sorry. He has
2.5 sacks.
41. 41. He has 21 solo tackles in 6 seasons. He'll be on the team again. Trust me.
I'm gonna go against you. I think this is the year he gets cut. I think this is the year that they say we have more than one person that can fill that role. Whether it's Chris Wormley, who they traded for the Ravens, whether it's Davis, the rookie, whether it's Isaiah Buggs going into his second year, Tyson Alualu. They have the players now that I feel that they are capable. So I'm going to say that he is gone. Get him out of here. Save some cap space. Cal football. That's right. What else do you have on your rundown there, Lance? Anything we didn't touch on?
The last thing I wanted to touch on, and Dave talked about it, he talked about narratives pre-draft. If the Steelers selected a certain player, what would be the narrative? What do you think the narrative overall for this draft is? I mean, Kabali came out. He didn't necessarily whack the draft, but that's a pretty strong statement that he doesn't think that the Steelers.
That's as close to whacking the draft as you can get without saying this draft class sucks.
So what's your narrative? What's your narrative on this draft? If there's anything that stands out when you look at the selections, what is Jeff Hartman's narrative for this 2020 draft class?
I think it's going to if I were really, writing a headline, it would be the Steelers got what they needed in the 2020 NFL draft. It's not flashy. That's like my dad sent me a text. Hey, what do you think about the draft? Like he just wants me to tell him what to think. That's essentially what my dad does. He doesn't want to sit and watch all of it. So when they get the players, he goes, I'll just talk to Jeff and Jeff will tell me what I need to know. I said, they got what they needed. It wasn't a flashy draft. No one really, other than Claypool, no one really jumped off the screen. You're like, yeah, they got that guy. Other than Claypool, it was depth. They got depth. And that's what we started the show with in terms of, is their 2020 roster better now than it was prior? And that's up for debate. So we'll see. It's really going to be interesting to see. But I would say the narrative for me would be they got what they needed. What about you, Lance? What would your narrative be?
I like a couple of comments in the live chat. I'm going to read 2 of them. One is from Dark Storm 1. Solid but unsexy. I like that.
Put that on the screen. Okay.
Solid but unsexy. Where, and I always do these dating analogies. She's not a 10, but she's a solid 7.5. And when she puts on a nice dress, she's a solid 8. Solid but unsexy. And I also want to read Jeffrey Benedict's comment. The draft class is Matt Canada approved. They are rebuilding this offense to be Matt Canada's offense.
Oh, Randy Lynn. Oh,
that should make you happy.
Randy Lynn, no.
That should make you happy. This is the offensive draft. They went out and got weapons for Ben.
And 3-3. 3-3 though, if you're looking at the side of the ball, but go ahead.
But if you look at it, they got two quick twitch, explosive guys on offense that are young, which put them in a position where if Juju is gone next year for some reason, you've got the big X receiver, you've got the blazy fast running back, and you've got the injection of youth at the guard position on the offensive line. So this feels like what Dark One said and what Jeffrey Benedict said. To me, this is an offensive draft. And let's just see what it looks like this time next year in 2021.
Let me ask you this. I wrote this article. It's something I always do the day after the draft is I scour the internet. Dave Schofield, the Oracle, helped me out with this. And I look at major media outlets that give out grades, draft grades, and I just compile them in an article. And I got about 5 or 6 websites that had already put out their grades. ESPN will do theirs tomorrow normally. But still, some of these sites were including Minkah Fitzpatrick in the grade because they were viewing Minkah Fitzpatrick as like a first-round pick. You agree with that? I don't, because he's a proven player. He's an all-pro.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
But what are your thoughts on that?
I think that's ridiculous. I mean, he didn't get drafted this year, so he's not part of the draft class. But I think that's a nice natural segue to give me your premature, semi-knee-jerk reaction grade for this draft. And big up to Darwin Nolan. You are correct, Jesse, that the defensive tackle from Nebraska, he did run, I think his brother
4.48.
Yeah, his brother ran a 4.79, and Carlos ran like a 4.82. So that's freaky fast. That's actually the most ridiculous. At 300 plus, running a 4.8. Good Lord, if he hit you.
Before I get to the grade, Ron McCringleberry, he says gets $5 in the tip jar. And this is a question for you. This is a question for Brian Anthony Davis if you were on the show. Where does this draft fall on the hot crazy scale?
Now, I don't know what that scale is.
I believe that was, I remember it being on How I Met Your Mother. If you've ever saw that show where they had the graph and one side was hot and one side was crazy. And you want to be right, in the middle. That's like the premier spot, but you can't, you can be hot, but not crazy. That's ideal. Too crazy. It can be chaotic. So where does this fall on that scale for you?
I guess like jalapeno peppers. I mean, like, it's hot, but not super hot. It's not habaneros or goat peppers.
I think he's referring to your and Brian's constant, looking at comparing football to women.
Well, I'm going to say this draft is a solid 7.5. I'm going to say it's a 7.5.
I'm going to say it's a solid girl next door, Okay. You look at her and you're like, she's pretty cute. I've known her my whole life. She's cute, but she's not the one that you're going after 2 a.m. phone calls for. You know what I mean?
No.
Yeah. We'll go with that.
Definitely not.
Okay. I'll give you my grade, then we'll go over your grade. My knee-jerk grade, I'm going to give this draft we'll go with the B-. Go with the B-. They got what they needed. I think that they could have made some improvements along the way. Some of the positional needs, it was okay. It's all right. So I'll give it a B-. What about you?
I'll give it a solid B. I want to be less of a hater today. I want to be less of a hater today. So I'm going to give it a solid B. I like David Leha's comments. Everyone is a 10 in someone's eye. Steeler fans must believe judging them before they have played one snap together is unfair. I bleed black and gold every day. That's why we are called fans. And David Leha touches upon one of the very reasons why I'm not really a draft person. I'm not really a draft guy. I'd rather just wait, watch the guys play, and be able to evaluate them based on film. However, I do get why people like the draft, because the draft gives a sense of renewal, a sense of hope, and people can hang on that. So I don't begrudge anyone that likes the draft, or anyone that, like me, that just likes to wait. I like True Dad's comments about the draft. She kind of spicy. Yes.
All right. This was something we talked about. I want to say it was yesterday, the last show after the 7th round. And it was, how long do you think it takes to grade a rookie or a draft class? So I put it on Twitter. And I was pretty amazed that there's so many people. I gave obviously 1, 2, 3, or 4 years. Those were the options. 54% said 3 years is what you need to truly gauge a class or a rookie. But the second was 2. I still think 2 years is not a long time. What would you have said? I remember what people said when Troy Polamalu was a rookie and basically didn't play. And then his second year, everyone's like, oh, this guy. You got to give some players some time, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And you said 3, didn't you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I'm trying to answer the question. Someone was asking me what jersey this is. Of course, it's not Mr. Butt Naked and Rob. This is Rod Woodson jersey. It's the Rod Woodson 60 season throwback jersey.
Yeah, there you go. Sean Manahan. Sean Manahan puts $2 in the tip jar and says Davis takes McCullers' spot, and then Big Dan goes to the Ravens.
Unless he has on Wang Harbaugh, he gotta have some pictures on Wang. Unless he has some pictures on Wang, he won't be playing. Like El Busto, Jarvis Jones never played another snap. I believe he never played after he got cut from the Steelers. I don't think he played anywhere else, did he?
Yes, he went to Arizona. El Busto?
Yeah.
He went to Arizona for a cup of coffee and then called it a career. I think he's at Georgia coaching. Okay. I don't know what he's coaching.
Good for him.
I hope it's not edge rushers. That'd be bad for them.
Well, he convinced somebody. If you had Minkah part of the draft, if you had Minkah Fitzpatrick, if you want to take that tact and add Minkah Fitzpatrick to the draft, and it's an A draft. I mean, geez,
Minkah an A plus because you have an all-pro safety.
I mean, he's an all-pro safety. So, and Minkah's going to be better probably than anybody in the draft that got taken this year. So, there you go.
Well, before we call it a show, someone said, it's going to be a shame we're not going to see them. Here we go. Awesome stuff, 1983s. It sucks we can't see them suit up soon like we usually do. And he's referring to rookie minicamp and OTAs. All I'm saying is that you're starting to hear sport leagues start the process of talking about coming back. Okay, and this is talking about the pandemic, COVID. The NHL is already talking about possibly having games in neutral site locations where obviously the players would be tested probably ad nauseum. You would have an area where it is not considered a hot spots. It would not be New York City or somewhere like that. But also the NBA has talked about opening up facilities for teams in areas where they're easing the stay-at-home restrictions. I'm not saying that whether I agree, whether I disagree, I'm saying that the process is starting to take place. The NFL, this is key. The NFL commissioner, Roger Goodell, did an interview with Judy Batista for NFL.com, and I read it, and he said that he does not want to allow any teams in the facility until every single team can do it. He said one of the reasons why they went ahead with the NFL draft is that it was the same thing for every team. No one had an advantage of being able to go out and scout. Everyone was the same. He said, when we let teams back in, it's going to be the same. Because how fair would that be? Let's say a team like Kansas City. I'm thinking of a team in the middle of the state where it might not be as bad. Let's say a team like Kansas City. They're like, well, we're able to go out. We're able to go to work. We're reopening. Let's get back to work. But that's not fair for someone in California or in New York or New Jersey. And you're like, that's not fair. They're on the field practicing, and our guys are at home looking at Zoom meetings. That doesn't add up. So for those that are curious, that's what Roger Goodell said about the process. So we'll see.
Yeah, man, patience is the key to all of this. Because I mean, the one thing you don't want to do with a virus and something as deadly as we've seen, you don't want to dip your toe in. Because if you dip your toe might get chopped off. And once you dip your toe, and if it's chopped off, you're going to take your foot right back out. So we got to be smart about it. I mean, we got to be smart about it. We don't want to put people at risk, fans, players, their families. So, be smart about it. Take your time. It's all going to come back. It's just a matter of when. Hang in and just hang in there and be patient. And just realize that, your patience will pay off in the fact that, at some point in time in the foreseeable future, everybody will be safe.
I just want to go golfing.
You better buy Tiger Woods golf in a PS4. you better. So I don't want people in the live chats.
We're not getting into all that. I did not bring this up to start this debate. I was just saying because someone brought it up. That's all I was saying. All right, so there you go. Good show, Lance. I'm glad we got on here and got to talk about it. Just so everyone's aware, we're going to have a full week of shows. In case you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and set up your notifications so that you get all of our shows. Tomorrow, we'll have Tony and Brian for the Steelers Q&A. Tuesday, the Stat Geek with Dave Schofield and Big Bro Rich. Wednesday, Lance and I will be back with The Standard is the Standard. Thursday, the Steelers Preview Crew. That's myself, Brian Anthony Davis, and Dave Schofield. Lance will be on Friday for the Yeah, I Said It show. And then next Saturday is when Tony Defeo debuts his very own show. What is the name of it? I don't know. We'll figure it out, and you'll be able to tune in and get Tony. People have been clamoring for more Tony. It's hysterical. When he came onto our draft, they're like, Tony, when is he getting his own show? It's in the works. It's in the works. It's in the works. And then Sunday, the homer and the hater returns. So my day is done. Lance's day is done. My 5 straight days of doing podcasts is over.
Yes.
I'm taking a break. Break. So with that said, thank you all. Thank you all for watching and tuning in throughout from Thursday to today and through all the weeks. Our channel now, I think our subscription, we're almost to 5,600. I really want to get to 6,000 before the season starts, and I want to be at 7,000 by the time the season ends.
Yeah, I want to be at 6,000 by my 50th birthday. My 50th birthday is June 18th. So can you guys give me a present for my 50th birthday? Let's get to 6,000, baby. Let's do this.
That's doable. Go ahead and send us out, Lance.
And as always, listeners, tune in, tell a friend, and subscribe.
Amen. The draft is a wrap. We'll see you.